Most people in their 20s don't invest, and it's not because they don't want to. It's because it feels like something you do later, when you have more money, when you understand it better, when you finally got some kind of system figured out. So they wait, and the thing they're waiting for, more money, more understanding, the perfect time, mostly never shows up. Meanwhile, the one real advantage they've got is quietly slipping away. Time. I want to fix that today. I'm going to walk you through how to actually start investing, even if you have almost no money, in a way that's simple enough you could set it up this week. No stock picking, no watching charts, no pretending you're going to beat the market, just a boring, proven approach that actually builds wealth over a lifetime. My name's Kyle Blackwell. I'm a certified financial planner, and I've spent almost 2 decades helping people walk through their money. I've written a whole chapter on this in my book, and I teach it in my course. But I wanted to make a version for anybody who's staring at their first paycheck or their first little bit of margin, thinking, okay, I know I'm supposed to invest. I just have no idea where to even start. Let's take the mystery out of it. First, let's clear up something that trips a lot of people up. Saving and investing are not the same thing. Saving is like putting money in a piggy bank. It feels safe, but it grows incredibly slowly, if it grows at all. And here's the part most people don't realize. If your savings account is earning 1% while inflation is running at 2 or 3, you're actually losing money over time. The number in the account looks the same, but what it can actually buy keeps shrinking. There's an illustration I use in my book. Imagine you saved up enough cash to buy a house, and instead of doing anything with it, you buried it in the backyard. You dig it up 50 years later, and it buys you about a pound of potatoes. I'm exaggerating, but honestly, not by as much as you'd think. Investing is different. Investing puts your money to work. You're buying a small piece of real companies that grow and produce value over time. Yes, there's more risk than a savings account, but over the long haul, the reward is in a completely different universe. And your future self is going to need it because that future version of you still has to eat and pay bills and live, and everything's going to cost more by then. Somebody spending $10,000 a year on groceries today could be spending over $30,000 a year by the time they retire, just on food. So investing isn't really optional if you want a future with any margin in it. And it's just something most people put off until it's almost too late. Here's the single most important thing I can tell you about investing. The biggest advantage you will ever have isn't money, and it isn't knowledge. It's time. If you follow me for a while, you've probably heard me talk about Fred and Ted. I keep coming back to them because the point matters more than almost anything else I could tell you. 2 guys, same age, same job, both making around $50,000 a year, both investing 10% of their incomes at a modest return. The only difference is when they start. Fred starts at 22, Ted waits until 32, just 10 years. By the time they're both 62, Fred has nearly twice as much as Ted, almost $400,000 more. And here's the kicker. Fred only put in about $50,000 more than Ted did total. So those 10 years didn't cost him $50,000. They earned him $400,000. Not because Fred was smarter, because Fred started. And before you tell me you can't afford it, you don't need much. $5 a day, about a cup of coffee, invested over a working life, turns into hundreds of thousands of dollars. Small amounts plus time become enormous numbers. That's not a trick, it's just compound interest. Each dollar earns a little, then that little earns a little, and it builds on itself. At first, it feels painfully slow, like nothing's happening. It's kind of like bamboo, actually. Bamboo grows underground for years, and for a long time, it looks like nothing's going on at all. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, it shoots up feet at a time. That's compounding. Those boring years where nothing seems to be happening are the most important years you'll ever have, because they're what makes the explosion later even possible. So the lesson is simple, even if it isn't easy. You are not too broke to start. You might be too impatient to start, and those are very different problems. The good news is that the rest of this is just mechanics, and the mechanics are simpler than almost anyone makes them sound. That's what I actually want to spend our time on. Okay, so you're convinced. Now, so where do I actually put this money, Kyle? There's an order to this, and getting the order right matters more than picking the perfect investment. First, before you invest a single dollar, get a small foundation in place. Have a starter emergency fund somewhere around $1,000 to begin with, and knock out any high interest debt, especially credit cards. If you're carrying a balance at 20+%, paying that off is the best guaranteed return you will ever get. I cover all that in another video, so I won't go deep into it here. Once you've got that little bit of stability, here's the order. Step 1, if your job offers a 401k match, take it. A match is free money. If they put in 50 cents or $1 for every dollar you contribute, that's an instant 50 to 100% return before your money has done anything at all. There's no investment on earth that beats that. So capture the full match first. Step 2, open a Roth IRA. A Roth is an account where you invest money you've already been taxed on. It grows tax-free, and you pull it out tax-free in retirement. For most young people, that's a fantastic deal because you're probably in a lower tax bracket now than you will be later. And here's the detail that puts people at ease. With a Roth, you can pull out the contributions you put in, not the earnings, but the contributions, without penalty if you really need to. So it's not as locked away as people fear. Step 3, once the Roth is funded, go back and put more into your 401k beyond the match. Step 4, if you still got more to invest after that, then you can look at a regular brokerage account. That's the whole ladder. Match, Roth, more 401k, then brokerage. And you'll notice none of those steps involve picking hot stocks. So inside those accounts, what do you actually buy? Keep this simple. Honestly, simpler than you think you're allowed to. You don't need a complicated portfolio or some secret strategy. I know that's a little funny coming from a guy who does this for a living, but I'd rather just tell you the truth. And the truth is that for most people, starting out, it's pretty simple. For most young investors, a solid setup is mostly a low-cost fund that tracks the overall U.S. stock market. Index fund or an ETF that basically owns a piece of hundreds of the biggest American companies all at once. Instead of betting on one company, you own a sliver of all of them. If one goes under, it's one tiny slice of hundreds. That's called diversification, and it's how you lower your risk without having to be some genius stock picker. You can add a smaller piece that tracks international markets if you want a little exposure outside the US. And if you're older or if you just want a smoother ride, you can mix in some bonds. But for most people in their 20s, simple isn't just okay. Simple is better. Now, 2 habits make this almost foolproof. The first is dollar cost averaging, which just means investing the same amount on a regular schedule, no matter what the market is doing. Some months the market is up and your $50 buys a little less. Some months it's down and your $50 buys more. Over time, it smooths out and you never have to sit there trying to guess the perfect moment. The second habit is automation. Set it up to pull from your paycheck or your account automatically so you don't leave it to willpower or motivation. Investing actually works best when you barely notice it's happening. Set it and forget it. I want to close with the part that matters most to me, because if all you take from this is a strategy to accumulate as much as possible, then I haven't really done my job. People sometimes ask whether it's even right to want to build wealth. And my honest answer is that it depends entirely on why. If it's about greed, about status, about having more than the next person, that's a trap, and it won't satisfy you anyway. But if it's about being able to provide, to be generous, to serve people, to actually have a positive impact on the world around you, then building wealth wisely isn't just okay, it's good stewardship. Because the whole reason to do any of this is that the resources were never ultimately yours in the first place. You're managing them. And a faithful manager doesn't bury what he's been given in the backyard out of fear. He puts it to work patiently. So there's more to give and more to serve with down the road. So starting small isn't something to be embarrassed about. In the Bible, faithfulness with a little is the whole point. It's what everything else gets built on. So start, open the account, automate the first small amount, even if it feels almost too small to matter, especially if it feels too small to matter. Because the person who starts at 22 with $5 a day ends up in a completely different place than the person who keeps waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. That's really it. Get your little foundation in place, capture the match, open a Roth, keep it simple with a low-cost index fund, automate it, and then mostly leave it alone and let time do the heavy lifting. It's not exciting. It's not going to make you rich this year, but boring and consistent, stretched over a few decades, quietly beats exciting almost every time. I go a lot deeper on all this in my book, Purpose in Every Paycheck. Links in the description. Thanks for being here. I'll see you on the next one.